Here we go, Colin right, Colin wrong.
Where Colin was right.
We've been a huge fan of Andy Reid for years. The Eagles are a bigger mess every year he's not there. He is now the only coach in NFL history to host 3 straight AFC championships, and he's done it in both conferences. The adapter, one of the most likable guys. I thought yesterday it wasn't irony or a coincidence. His best play call of the year is when Patrick Mahomes got hurt. That Chad Henne play is the call of the year in the NFL, and only Andy Reid would say, yeah, I'm going to get Chad Henne, and I'm going to roll the dice. By the way, that wasn't the only play. Like, they threw the ball probably more than 99% of the coaches would with Mahomes out. A lot of guys would have killed the clock and run the ball. They were having some marginal success running the ball, but the easiest guy in the league to root for, maybe Andy Reid. Love him.
Where Colin was wrong.
Baker Mayfield. I always thought he could play. My question day one, college, was maturity. Last year he was calling out the medical staff. Last year he was getting in arguments with, like, me and the media on Twitter and Instagram. But actually he grew up this year. He was poised. He was calm. He was a grown-up. You know, now he's like Aaron Rodgers. He kind of winks at the media as he pokes him in the ribs. But I really thought he came a long way as an adult, mature, runs the offense. And that's hard. By the way, that may be harder than the physical stuff, is owning up to, hey, I got to grow up a little bit. I thought he did. He finally has a legitimate coach. And believe it or not, folks, I root for Baker. I don't root against any of these guys. Bad quarterback play is the gates of hell to me. There's nothing worse than watching a football game with bad quarterback play. I want all these guys to work. All of them.
Where Colin was right.
Yeah, Brady won the divorce, which we thought, but it is now, like, embarrassing. Tom Brady has 44 touchdown passes. The Patriot quarterbacks have 10. I thought he was sensational yesterday. Gronk wasn't big. Mike Evans got mostly covered except that catch. Chris Godwin struggled. I thought just wasn't tight. Antonio Brown got hurt. Cameron Brate was a leading receiver. By the way, all these leaks in the media. We could have won with multiple quarterbacks here in New England. If I had to read that again. Yeah, maybe Aaron Rodgers. That's about it.
Where Colin was wrong.
Well, Lamar Jackson did unravel yesterday. He struggled 14 for 24, and just wasn't a good afternoon for him. Listen, 4 playoff games, they've averaged 13 points. 3 points in a playoff game, pick 6, seam rattle, couldn't beat Buffalo with his arm. Now, again, Buffalo got good players. But, I think the reality is, let's upgrade his wide receiving core. He did get to the playoffs and win a playoff game. And he beat the Browns twice this year. This is a guy that can play. He beat the Colts this year. He's won a lot of games in the NFL. But I did think he unraveled this weekend, got a little ahead of himself. It felt like all weekend long he was throwing on 3rd and 9. It just felt like, and you cannot go on the road in the NFL in the playoffs with an average receiving core and be 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 11 and 3rd and 9. You're just not going to win that game. You're just not. One of the things Brady got yesterday was actually, he got a good running game. He had actually support from his running backs. It's amazing how good quarterbacks look on 3rd and 3 and not 3rd and 11.
Where Colin was right.
We've been on the Buffalo train for about 7-8 weeks. They're a Hail Mary away from a 12-game winning streak. We were also on the Sean McDermott train to start the year. I think McDermott, he's like the Kyle Shanahan of defense. Nobody talks about Buffalo. We talk about the 49ers more. This is a flawed team. They can't run the ball. The Colts ran on them. They got a young quarterback. They got to upgrade the defensive line. They don't get much of a pass rush. This is not a perfect football team. It is not. Before Stephon Diggs, they didn't throw the ball deep. This is a really well-coached team that has elevated a spectacular young quarterback, acquired a gifted wide receiver, and has a couple of DBs I really like. But don't. If all the roster's remaining, I could make the argument this is the weakest one. Sean McDermott's a great coach.
Where Colin was right.
3 Miami Dolphin players told anonymously the Miami Herald they weren't in on Tua, and they didn't like benching Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they think Fitzpatrick's the better player. Again, my question, the weekend, I think the Friday before Tua started, I said, I know he's accurate. I know he's a good kid. I know he's coachable. Where's the juice? Where's the special? I'm seeing it with Burrow. I'm seeing it with Josh Allen. I see it with Mahomes. I see it with Lamar. See it with Herbert. I don't see it with him. And Miami players now telling the Miami Herald they're seeing what we're questioning. Where's the special?
Where Colin was wrong.
I thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be rusty at least early in the game. Good Lord, he came out. He was 8-9, passing touchdown, rushing touchdown. He just made it look so easy. Again, they got Myles Garrett. It's not like there's not some pass rush. I thought he made it look so effortless. He was so comfortable. He was so poised. I thought, really, had I bet this game and I didn't, I would have bet Cleveland first quarter. I thought he was going to come out and really, he did last year. Took week 17 off, didn't play well in December, and that was Thanksgiving football with the relatives. I thought he just made it look football without a sweat.
Where Colin was right.
I have predicted Kyrie Irving is drama. Yes, he's talented, but 6 games in, he disappeared and didn't tell anybody where he was, including his coach. Now, he also forced the Brooklyn Nets to trade for an insurance policy. So you've already got drama. They've already traded for an insurance policy. I think Harden and Kevin Durant will win a bunch of games. They had a really good game this week. I didn't watch it, but I read about it. That I don't worry about. But in the end, there was a lot of stories out of Boston that weren't reported. There was a lot of issues there. He is really, really hard to coach. And that has always been the one thing that punctures elite talent.
Where Colin was right.
My insipid quarterback face bracket went 4 for 4. I'm now 8-2 overall, where I simply choose the games based on who's the better quarterback. Not your coach, not your defense, not your special teams, not where the game is. I choose who's playing better quarterback now. So I have chosen Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. 8-2 overall. 4 for 4 this weekend. And I made a mistake. Baker was playing better than Big Ben, and I gave it to Big Ben. I should be 9-1. I don't even know why I did that. That was dumb. That was almost as dumb as the quarterback face bracket itself. He was 5-1 in his 6 career playoff games, 15 years in the league, and has a Super Bowl trophy. Trent Dilfer now joining us live. Listen, I watched Drew Brees yesterday, and I said, that's how you age. If you don't eat avocado ice cream 9 times a day like Brady, you look like Breeze. You look like the ball on the outs doesn't quite get there. You had a last game or two. Like I looked at Drew and I thought, it's time. It kind of feels like it's time. Did you see that?
Well, I think all year long we've kind of noticed that. And a lot of it's reflected in Sean Payton's play calling. That was an offense that kind of felt like they were stuck in a hotel bedroom bed where the sheets are tied down underneath the bed and you kind of feel all tight in there until you bust out the sheets.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the offense looked like. Nothing was spread out, nothing was fluid, nothing was vertical, and everything they were doing is kind of playing in this tight little box. And Tampa had a lot to do with that, how they played defense, but it just seemed like he didn't have a lot of confidence in calling kind of a wide open offense and getting all his playmakers involved. So, yeah, I think it's time. And it's not a knock on Drew Brees, one of the greatest that's ever put on cleats at any position. To get this team this far at this age, I think is quite the accomplishment. But, yeah, yesterday with all the eyeballs watching it with a defense that said, hey, we're not scared of you. We're going to make you play in this hotel bed with the sheets tight on you. You could really see how his skills have diminished over the years.
I was kind of blown away by Brady. Antonio Brown hurt. Mike Evans minimized. I didn't think Chris Godwin was all buttoned up. Gronk was not terribly effective. I honestly, it wasn't a weapons thing. Many would believe he had the second best coach going into that game. I was kind of blown away by his resourcefulness yesterday. Your thoughts?
That's a good word. I'd use patience too, wisdom, discernment. All the things that aren't real glamorous parts about playing the position. I can't think of a ball he forced. When he missed away from the defense. You think of those couple throws down the sideline or corner shots to Gronkowski.
Yeah.
He misses away. He misses low in the middle of the field when Godwin runs the bad crossing route. Like his misses were really good. He wasn't forcing the issue. He played the long game. He never panicked. And obviously, he got some great help from a defense that played phenomenal and got the ball back for him. But Yeah, there was never, and I think Chris mentioned it during the game, like, don't expect Tom Brady to force the issue and try to make more of it than there is. Like, he's going to take what the defense gave him. And I thought he was, what were they, 1 for 5 on vertical attempts?
Yeah.
But again, the misses were educated misses. So he played like a champion in a tough game. I would say this, he's the master of knowing what the game calls for, right? We say framing the game. Every game has its own frame. It's its own picture. It's different. And he can adjust to that early in the game and not play outside of the temperament of the game. And that's what he did last night.
I think Mahomes, I woke up this morning and I thought, Kansas City won. Mahomes didn't play for the last quarter, and you've played on a bad foot. He couldn't push off. And I'm like, I thought he was going to come out a little rusty. His first 6-7 drives, touchdown, field goal, missed field goal, touchdown. I thought Mahomes, maybe he didn't have the dazzlers, but I was kind of a little blown away by him. I thought he was incredibly effective bouncing around on a bad foot.
I did too. And it goes back to what we said a couple weeks ago, I think. Like, their floor is so much higher than everybody else's. They don't have to play great. They don't even have to play great in a series. Like, you'll see them score in a series where they'll have 2, 3, 4 stinker plays, but they can overcome them. Like, they're so explosive. They're so diverse in what they do offensively. They have so many ways of coming at you that they can kind of sputter around and lollygag around and mess up, and then boom, they get 14 yards. They get 18. -3, +1, +12. And it doesn't even look right. But their floor is just so much higher than everybody else's. It's almost an unfair fight. I thought the Browns were impressive, earned my respect. I know they're in your respect. They played hard. They did a lot of good things, and they never really had a chance. People talk about the brilliant 4th down call. Who's to say the Browns are going to score if they punt there? Yeah. It's like, we're assuming the Browns are going to go on this miraculous drive when they hadn't done anything the 2 previous drives and score. Kansas City, they don't even have to play well, and they still beat good teams.
Yeah, not only not play well, but have their star quarterback out for a quarter and a half. Andy Reid, I thought he had a lot of guts. A lot of guys would go to their backup, and they would just run the ball. And it was like,
I would have.
Listen, there were a couple times they was throwing. Tony Romo was a riot. Tony's like, look at the body language. They're not running a play here. And they did it. And Tony was like aghast like the rest of us were. The Henny call. I was like, that takes a lot of guts, Trent. That most coaches won't do that.
I think this is where Andy Reid, his staff, you got to give his whole staff a lot of credit, because I know he delegates a lot to Bieniemy and the other offensive coaches on that staff. I think they beat people Monday through Saturday. I remember as a player, I now know as a coach how hard it is to prepare, how many rabbit holes you can go down, how much extra thinking you can do to give your team an advantage on game day. And they do all of that better than anybody else. The fact that they're going to run sprint right option in the most critical moment, it's probably in bold letters and red outline on the call sheet. And they did it against Miami a few weeks ago. But this week, they're going to say, okay, if we're going to run this play, what's the most creative way we could run it in a must-have situation, game-of-the-line situation? Oh, we can empty the backfield to get the man zone declaration, and then we can kind of get the offensive lineman to sit up a little bit higher and have bad body language by the 3 receivers, so it looks like we're going to triple count this and try to get him to jump. And then we'll notice the back when he comes back in from empty formation backfield, he's kind of lazy and standing up straight.
Yes.
But they plan this Monday through Saturday. So it's no surprise that on Sunday evening, when it has to work in the biggest moment of their season, they've gone through all the mental gymnastics. They've crossed every T, dotted every I on the whys and the hows of the play to create an advantage. And yes, they have a freak athlete, the number 3 receiver is going to run the jab step out, and they're going to protect it right, but it's all the thought that goes into it. Like I said, Monday through Saturday, that's where they're beating people. Yeah,
I thought it's a really good point, and that's what fooled Romo and it fooled me, which is they practice the body language. They literally look like they weren't doing it. And you're like, oh, it's a tell, like a poker player. That's a tell. And they went on the play, and Romo got fooled. I got fooled. I listened to Tony. I'm like, no, Tony's right. They're not running a play. Boom, they ran it. Now, go ahead.
I'll give you another example of teams that are good at this. Like, I saw this a couple times over the last couple weekends. Everybody runs quarterback sneak and short yardage situations, right?
Yep.
So what did the defense do? They get those two-eye techniques deep down. They reduce everybody. Those linebackers run up tight, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But now you're seeing teams shift, motion, look out, hand signal the receiver, like do all this window dressing just a quarterback sneak. So to create an intent different than what you're actually going to do to get 1 yard, that's the NFL, and that's where Andy Reid and the staff just do a better job than anybody else. When you need that 1 yard, what intent do you show the defense? And then what do you do outside of the intent?
I think it's interesting. 71% of the plays for the Packers had motion. And I watched that game, and I reflected back to Mike McCarthy, who runs a much more static offense. But I'm watching Green Bay. It's multiple sets. Everybody's in motion. They had all these offensive guys 2 years ago. They had all these pieces. It's almost like LaFleur came in, and they probably had some uncomfortable moments. He's like, no. We're gonna make your brain work overtime here. And I watched them, and they're hard to defend, Trent. There are guys, they're making corners, make snap decisions, fast motions. I don't know if there's a defense. They tore the Rams apart. I'm not sure how you stop Green Bay. How do you do it?
It's going to be tough. So much what they do is based off their action game under LaFleur. I think, number one, you got to stop the run. You can't let them run the football, because once they start running the football, and the whole entire menu is open for the Packers. And that menu is pretty robust with the shifts and motions and window dressing. And a lot of what they do is they're creating leverage with their motion. So you can't do a lot of that stuff if you're in the drop back pass mode. You almost want to reduce Green Bay back to what they once were. And that's 4 wide receivers, shotgun, quick passing game. And I know people are going, oh, you're crazy. That means Aaron's going to throw it more. But they're not nearly as effective when they're in the drop back pass mode. They are so dangerous in the action mode. They're so dangerous when they can condense those splits, get those receivers up on safeties and linebackers, and then activate them in the pass game in action. That's where they get their home run shots. They're so dangerous when they can change the launch point and get those receivers crossing from condensed splits. But if you stop their run game and you say, you know what, you're going to have to throw it 55 times today, Aaron, I think you have a fighting chance, but you can't stop them if they're balanced.
I love the Bills all year, but I will be honest about this. The last 2 weeks, I've seen a lot of flaws. They don't have a run game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's non-existent. Mm-hmm. And then against the Colts, I'm like, they don't have a pass rush if you have a decent offensive line. And here we are. They're in the AFC Championship in a field goal game with Kansas City. And I think to myself, are they too reliant on Josh Allen? Am I nitpicking because I'm seeing so much of them? But the more I see of them, I'm like, wow, that is a flawed team that keeps winning games. What do you see with the Bills?
They're one of the 4 best teams in the NFL. I think most of our eyeballs saw that, especially the second half of the season. But now it's these 4 trying to be the very best. I don't think with this formula they can be the very best. Yeah. I don't think they can finish the race depending so much on one player, one formula offensively. And that's not saying anything bad about them. It's just they're not quite there.
That's right.
The Packers, the Chiefs, I would say even the Bucs now, after they kind of formatted who they were after that shellacking in Week 9 against the Saints, these teams have everything you need offensively to finish the race. Buffalo, you're going to have to run the football. You can't put so much on the quarterback. I agree. Now, I will say this defensively. They're so creative defensively that they're huge in critical downs. But, yeah, you sit back and you're like, I don't think there's ever been a team that's won a Super Bowl being this so dependent on one phase of their offense.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of the way I feel. Like this morning, I feel like the most flawless team is Green Bay. And boy, Kansas City's the scariest, but their run defense is a little shaky. Tampa Bay special teams are cross your finger. Everybody's got a little something. And Buffalo, it may be a roster issue where they're just a pass rusher away. Just that.
It kind of feels like chalk to me. I mean, everybody kind of thought Green Bay, Kansas City going back, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's kind of when you're kind of looking to be a contrarian. If you're pulling somebody else, they might. But this kind of feels like chalk. Like this is going to be Kansas City, Green Bay. They're the 2 most complete teams, all 3 phases. Matt LaFleur's done an incredible job coaching like a veteran coach, or Andy Reid's the ultimate veteran coach. This kind of feels like Green Bay, Kansas City.
Great stuff. Good seeing you again. Lipscomb Academy high school football coach in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. Trent, appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
You bet. By the way, there's a lot. I'm just looking at some of the stuff coming down on these coaches. It is last 3 years, Joy. Stefanski, Zach Taylor, Joe Judge, Matt LaFleur, Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Robert Saleh, Brandon Staley. We going young. It's that Sean McVay thing. Brian Flores is young. We're going young. So I don't know who's going to get these jobs, but the reality is, like, it used to be, like, you wouldn't even consider somebody in their early 30s. That's a position coach. You wouldn't even give him a coordinator job. Like, if you have a good interview now, like Sean McVay walked in, the Rams were like, we can't let him out of the building. And that's what the Chargers did. They had Staley, they had another interview. They're like, he's going to get a job. We got to get this guy.